Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction for 2019. This event is supported by the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Bushfire Natural Hazards Cooperative Research Centre, the Australian Institute for Disaster Resilience, the Queensland Reconstruction Authority, the Queensland Inspector General's Office for Emergency Management, Queensland Fire and Emergency Service, the Australian Government Department of Home Affairs and Queensland University of Technology. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for coming. We hope you walk away with something that is useful and valuable to you today. And we're very much looking forward to your participation.
We're forced to adapt. The world is changing around us. We can't afford not to get on board on this. I want to thank you for the research that you do. I'm definitely on board. I know my government is definitely on board for all the challenges around climate change. We have no choice. And I know Queenslanders are on board. There's a huge amount of work ahead of us, but what we need is the research to help to guide us.
Points have been touched on before by a couple of people in the room, but it depends who you talk to. A homeowner, of course, their home is their critical infrastructure. A business owner, it's their business premises and all of the infrastructure that supports them to continue their business. The different agencies, Energex, for example, it's going to be substations, power lines, towers, transport and main roads, it's going to be road-based infrastructure. From a local government point of view, we also have to consider ourselves as critical infrastructure, especially during a disaster event and post-disaster event. So if we go down, then the response and recovery process goes down with it, certainly to a large degree for a certain amount of time.
One of the issues is, and what we try and generate in the risk assessment workshops, they're actually an exercise in collaborative problem solving. We desperately seek to get all the right players in the room. So one of the things is, and we've never have done, is go and tell people what their problems are and what they'll do about it. Everything QFES is doing in this understanding of risk and then the risk-based planning at the three layers of government and community is risk-based need. But we need people to come to the workshops, etc. And then the interconnectedness of infrastructure and what it does, what their failure points are, their vulnerabilities, where they're exposed. And often just due to the complexity, it's not known. Or there are aspects, but the infrastructure owners and operators do. But then from us operating in that environment, do we know what those impacts are?
Let me answer it in two ways. I think it would be a great first step. Great first step. Would it be the panacea in isolation? No, clearly not. All we've got to do is look at La Crosse, the cladding, Opal Tower. There's regulation, there's policy, there's compliance. Maybe not as much compliance as you'd like, but we've got that framework in place, and it clearly is still a problem. Second issue, I'd say maturity. I think this is an environment where we need to have a more mature understanding and more mature conversation. It's not just something that gets applied and as a static and you've solved the issue. And the third thing I'd say is no, because there are, we're talking natural disasters. There are other disasters, are there not? There are the cyber dimension. So how do you regulate policy compliance in a built infrastructure, which is where I am, a built infrastructure frame to address and have the confidence that it's going to solve the resilience piece.
Part of the forward-looking thing is what do we actually need to recover going forward, because that actually helps to focus on where we go. So if we think about, and you touched on it before, what happens if there's no IT, if the power goes down, the poles get burnt? The question then is, well, what else is not going to work? So if I was in a hospital, what am I not going to get? If the traffic lights aren't working, what's going to happen? So I think part of that is around almost having like a matrix so you can run across things to go, how important is that to my community? And is there anything else that supersedes that? Because it will get to a point where we can't defend everything, but we actually have to make some critical decisions.
Obviously, we want to always encourage resilience, improving asset quality and asset standards for the purpose of resilience. It's just you've got to be cognizant, I guess, of not trying to gold plate everything. So funding is always going to be limited, so it's a matter of targeting to achieve the best results.
In actual fact, because the risk is complex, it's really complex. People are complex, we're asking them to change. And it's a risk they don't understand and don't know, most people, because they've outsourced it. You have to teach them how to respect it rather than be afraid of it. And that's a big exercise, because that means they've actually got to understand how their critical infrastructure affects them and what that might mean to them and their role in supporting the critical infrastructure when things happen.